Hello, I'm Chris Barrow with the BBC News. Hurricane Idalia has weakened into a tropical storm as it moves across the US state of Georgia after leaving a trail of destruction on the Gulf Coast of Florida. Communities in the marshy Big Bend region of Florida have suffered catastrophic flooding, but so far there have been no confirmed fatalities. Governor Ron DeSantis gave this update on the situation.
So far, there have been 262,000 accounts that had lost power have been restored, and there are more than 250,000 accounts that are currently out of power and in need of restoration. Right now, Tampa Airport is going to reopen for incoming flights at 4 p.m. By 3 a.m. tomorrow, it will be fully reopened. Gainesville Airport will reopen tonight, and Tallahassee Airport will reopen first thing in the morning.
The army officers who've seized power in Gabon have named General Brice Ngema as transitional leader. The announcement came hours after he was carried in triumph through the streets of Libreville by soldiers. The army says an overnight curfew will be enforced until further notice, but internet and media services will be restored. Chile's left-wing government has launched a program to determine the fate of more than 1,000 people who disappeared during military rule between 1973 and 1990. They're presumed to have been murdered by the state. James Reid reports.
Announcing the national search plan, President Gabriel Boric said justice had taken too long and the people of Chile had the right to know the truth. The project will have a dedicated budget and staff of investigators. Relatives of those who disappeared during military rule may be entitled to reparations. It's now almost 50 years since the coup that brought General Augusto Pinochet to power, but his legacy still divides Chile. Right-wing opposition parties did not attend the launch of the search plan. They accuse President Boric of reopening old wounds for political reasons.
Switzerland has outlined a series of measures it says will combat money laundering and increase transparency in its huge financial sector. They include a register of those who ultimately benefit from trusts and companies. Switzerland is the only European country that doesn't have one. With the latest for us, here's James Wickham.
These proposals are going to see legal loopholes closed. It's also got to make it easier to monitor how lawyers for rich clients operate. And anyone who sets up trusts or holding companies, they're going to be subject to these new rules. This is not necessarily going to certainly become law. There's a long way until this definitely gets sorted, and these final measures might be significantly watered down. I think that the point to make here is the Swiss want to get rid of that idea that it's a place that you can go and just leave your money with no questions asked.
This is the latest world news from the BBC. North Korea says it's fired 2 short-range tactical ballistic missiles to simulate nuclear strikes on South Korea's command posts and airfields. State media said the tests were conducted as a warning against the US deployment of strategic bombers to the region. South Korea reported 2 missiles landed in the sea. The White House has said Russia is continuing secret negotiations with North Korea to acquire munitions and supplies for its war against Ukraine. The national security spokesman, John Kirby, said that in addition to military supplies, Moscow could also reach deals for raw materials to feed its defence industry. Linda Thomas-Greenfield, the US ambassador to the United Nations, criticised both Russia and North Korea.
In its pursuit of these weapons, Russia will violate Security Council resolutions, including resolutions Russia itself voted for. Any such arms deals would be a serious violation of resolutions the Security Council adopted unanimously after the DPRK passed nuclear tests and ballistic missile launches.
Russia has vetoed a United Nations proposal to extend targeted sanctions on Mali. The Russian envoy Vasily Nebenzia accused the UN of failing to appreciate the concerns of the military government in Mali or those of Russia. The military took power through a coup and now has a close alliance with Russia's Wagner mercenaries. Police in Canada have thanked local beekeepers for coming to the rescue after hives containing around 5 million honeybees fell off the back of a lorry. The bees were being taken to a winter location when the accident happened south of Toronto. Local beekeepers were mobilised to round up the swarms of angry insects. They managed this by reassembling the hives and identifying the queens, sustaining plenty of stings in the process. BBC News.